invite God's presence with us this morning. Dear Heavenly Father, I'm so grateful for the opportunity to assemble in this manner. And we invite you into this room. We ask for your blessings on this proceedings. We ask that you be with each and every debater, each and every coach who have taken the time to prepare these students, each home for which these students are coming from. We are particularly grateful for the organizers of this event. And we ask the Lord that we proceed in fairness and objectivity, and we also ask for an opportunity for these debaters to present their views in an amicable way. And we ask that at the end of the presentations, that you will receive the honor and the glory for providing these students with the knowledge and the skills necessary to compete under these conditions and to show that God-given talents. These messages we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so very much. Just give us a moment, please. We are now streaming live. I am going to We're having a little technical difficulties. Just give us. Okay, welcome back, Shari. You are now hosting the meeting. So I am going to ask you to spotlight and we will begin.
Sure.
In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome everyone and welcome to the 2023 Regional Finals. Special congratulations to Elmore Stout High School from the British Virgin Islands and Precious Treasures International joining us from Turks and Caicos. Let me begin by offering prayers for most of the islands here in the Caribbean that was affected by Hurricane Beryl. Our deepest sympathies to the lives lost. I think we have 6 persons who would have passed because of this hurricane. We acknowledge our delegates that's here with us this morning. I am seeing quite a few persons online. We have Basil Smith. We also have Natalie Penlake from the BVI Tourist Board. We have Mark Garland. You would have heard from Mr. Garland, who is the Deputy Director at the Ministry of Education, in Turks and Caicos. We have Brian Bean. We have our coaches and our speakers here this morning. The 2 schools competing this morning will be vying for regional supremacy, which will place them as the 3rd regional champions. And this would be after PJ Bethel of the Bahamas and Leon Hess from St. Lucia. Both coaches will receive a weekend all-inclusive from Sandals International, and that's Sandals Royal Caribbean, Montego Bay, Ocho Rios, Negril. We have Barbados, Antigua, Sandals, Grenada, Turks and Caicos, Beaches, Turks and Caicos, Beaches, Ocho Rios. They have the entire Caribbean. So congratulations to both coaches. Our students will receive medals and trophies from Camco Manufacturing. Can we have a round of applause, please, for that? Thank you so much. It's only 3 years and we are thankful. We see some persons there in the audience. This year should be our last year meeting online. Next year, we hope to be with you wherever we are. We're all together, and this will give you a better feel of the competition. We want to thank our adjudicators, our Chief Judge, Mrs. Bertha Cooper Rousseau, joining us from the Bahamas, who is an attorney at law, Mr. Dennis Chung. He is with Office of Disaster and Preparedness Emergency Management. He's the chairman there at ODPEM in Jamaica, and Miss Judy Ditterville, who is the manager of public relations at Sandals St. Lucia. Our motion this morning, which is being proposed by the British Virgin Islands, is this House believes increasingly devastating superstorms and earthquakes makes our #1 tourism industry risky business for the Caribbean. Now, the motion will be opposed by Precious Treasures International High School. Our speakers, Candy Richardson, Naomi Awonjunjo, I hope I'm saying that correct. Is everybody seeing and hearing me? And Adrian Thomas. Can you all hear me? I'm getting some notifications on my phone, so I'm wondering if everyone is hearing.
Yes, we are hearing you.
And the screen is fine, okay. All right, so I'm seeing a lot of notifications. And our opposing speakers, Kiara McLean, who is the second speaker, Ade Kushney, first speaker, and Theo Silva, who is the third speaker. The match will begin with our proposing team, British Virgin Islands. Now we're going to take a minute and make sure that our cameras are in place. So BVI, please spotlight BVI Shari, and let us take a minute to ensure that all the mics and cameras are in place. Oh, wow, look at that. Can I commend both schools? You look absolutely fabulous. You look really good. Congratulations, Mr. Bean. Congratulations, Miss Weeks. Your teams look extremely well. So we are going to start with our proposing team. Our first speaker is allowed 7 minutes, second speaker 5 minutes, and the third speaker 3 minutes, followed by rebuttal. When we get to the rebuttal section, however, we will begin with the opposing team, which is Turks and Caicos. Almost lost it there. So let us invite our proposing team first speaker to begin.
Madam Speaker, esteemed judges, members of this honorable house, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am Candy Richardson, Prime Minister of this mighty house. Former U.S. Secretary of Energy Stephen Chu once stated, I think the Caribbean countries face rising oceans and they face an increase in the severity of hurricanes. This is something that is very, very scary to all of us. The island states in the world represent, I remember this number, 0.5% of the carbon emissions in the world, and some of them will disappear. This quote fully encapsulates the urgency we face as a region towards climate change, and that is why we, the House, stand in full proposition of today's motion, that increasingly devastating superstorms and earthquakes make our #1 tourism industry risky business for the Caribbean. Madam Speaker, once again, due to the nature of the motion, we almost feel bad for our worthy opponents, but we shall do what we must and lay them soundly to rest with extreme prejudice and precision. As Prime Minister, I will define relevant terms to avoid any misunderstanding before I further explain what the experts have to say about climate change, superstorms, and their impacts on tourism across the region. Our Deputy Prime Minister will continue that trend by outlining the effects Irma has had on one of the islands affected. Our third member of the House will shift our focus and discuss the costs Haiti incurred during one of the most destructive events the region suffered within the last 20 years. Finally, our rebuttal speaker will summarize our opponent's arguments, offer her opinions, and highlight instances where we disagree with the opposition. Madam Speaker, to critically analyze the topic at hand, we must first define the key terms in a motion: devastating, superstorm, earthquake, and risky business. According to vocabulary.com, devastating means, quote, wreaking or capable of wreaking complete destruction, end quote. Dictionary.com defines superstorm as, quote, a very severe and widespread storm characterized by record-setting meteorological events and large-scale destruction, end quote. The World Health Organization defines an earthquake as, quote, a violent and abrupt shaking of the ground caused by movement between the tectonic plates along the fault line in the Earth's crust, end quote. Lastly, according to Merriam-Webster Dictionary, risky business is, quote, a situation or activity that involves the possibility of being hurt, end quote. Madam Speaker, I do not believe anyone can successfully argue that developing a tourism product in a region beset by frequent natural disasters isn't inherently risky. The question now becomes, how risky is it? We decided to tackle this problem by first investigating two important factors: who the product is targeting, the tourists, and the ones operating the product, the business owners. For the tourists, safety is paramount. However, because weather can only be reliably forecasted up to 10 days out, travelers often look at the trends over the years and weigh the odds. In a warmer climate that may produce more powerful storms more frequently, this change in trends will make travelers more reluctant to visit the region. This was explored in a 2012 study by Anna Hubner and Stephen Gosling after storms drenched Martinique in April and May of 2011. When asked if they would return to the Caribbean, 17% of respondents said that it was unlikely, with 4% stating they would definitely not return due to the unexpected weather pattern. Furthermore, 52% of the respondents stated that climate change would have an influence on their future travel plans, with a respondent from France highlighting their desire for sun and being unable to commit to booking a stay without the assurance of stable weather. That same year, a team led by Dr. Johanna Foster, an environmental social scientist, conducted a study in Anguilla. This was done to investigate what impacts the variability in hurricane activity may have on tourist activity in the country. They concluded that if hurricane activity on Anguilla increases or is perceived to increase, many tourists may seek alternative holiday destinations. Madam Speaker, if the probability of tourists visiting a destination is predicated on their perception of the place being considered safe, how likely are they to visit knowing that storms in the region will worsen? This will most certainly increase the risk that tourism-centered ventures face as their income becomes unreliable. Of course, we cannot talk about risk without talking about insurance, which has risk management at its core. In a 2022 article published by the Caribbean Council, a UK trade and investment organization with Caribbean ties, they highlighted the changes expected in that sector after storms battered the region that year. As a result of the $55 billion in claims, insurance companies in the region would have to pay between 15 and 30% more for reinsurance in 2023. Sharon Donaldson, president of the Insurance Association of Jamaica, summed up the situation perfectly. Quote, "We are now facing a property insurance market with higher premiums. In addition, persons may not be able to afford insurance they require, and in some cases, they will not be able to get it because there's absolutely no capacity." End quote. Add to this, The rampant inflation, which further increases the cost of goods and services, especially after disaster, and business owners may find themselves in a situation where continued investment in such ventures will simply become unsustainable. Madam Speaker, oftentimes, when faced with a difficult situation, we are told that we could either sink or swim. Unfortunately, as the planet warms, the shore seems to be getting further and further away. Let us hope that relief in the form of much needed policy changes comes before we all get tired of swimming. The House momentarily pauses.
Thank you very much. We will now move over to our first speaker from Turks and Caicos. All right, Charlotte Spotline, TCI. And we are joined by Candy Richardson. Candy, you can go ahead. Yes, we can hear you.
Excuse me, is that Candy Richardson?
Yes. No, that's BVI. Candy?
My name
Shari?
is
Yes, that's Candy. Where are we?
Ade Kushni.
Ade Kushni? Oh, sorry.
Yes,
First speaker, Ade Kushni, sorry.
from Turks and Caicos.
From Turks and Caicos. You can go ahead. Go ahead.
Honorable Speaker, esteemed colleagues, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, join me in observing a moment of silence for our Caribbean nations who have been impacted by the superstorm the past week. Thank you. Now let's get down to business. Every single decision and action has an associated risk. It is quite fitting that we confront this pivotal question. Does the escalating threat of devastating superstorms and earthquakes render the Caribbean's tourism industry a risky venture? This motion demands careful consideration, grounded not in fear, but in an appreciation of the resilience and innovation of our region. Honorable Speaker, before we pronounce death on our #1 tourism industry in the Caribbean because it is a risky business, let's give careful thought to these terms: risk, relief, and recovery. Let's start by clarifying two of the most important terms in this mood. Cambridge Online Dictionary defines risky as the potential for unfavorable outcomes, and a threat as the possibility that something unwanted will happen. Should we put our booming industry on hold based on something that is a possibility and not a certainty? Let's face it, sometimes it is the potential for unfavorable outcomes that gives birth to some of the greatest inventions, which proves the proverb, necessity is the mother of inventions. Since risk management begins with identifying the risks, we're already off to a good start with this mood. The Global Tourism Resilience and Crisis Management Center has the responsibility for coordinating, among other things, the recovery from disruptions that impact tourism and threaten economies and livelihoods. This is according to Professor Lloyd Waller, their executive director. Members of this honorable house, this is a step in the right direction. It is fantastic that we have identified two risks: superstorms and earthquakes. Now, let's not try to paint a picture of doom and gloom for the members of our very hardworking #1 tourism industry. Instead, let us give hope to our nationals. Let's think about relief and recovery as a risk management plan for this robust and resilient blue economy. This is our standpoint today. Imagine a world with quarantine, stay-at-home orders, and flights grounded. We don't have to imagine, do we? 2020 taught us there are far greater risks to our tourism industry than superstorms and earthquakes. Furthermore, according to Rafael Akmabi et al. From the Journal of Travel Research, security threats such as terrorism, political instability, and geopolitical power plays are 75% greater than the risk of natural disasters, including earthquakes and superstorms. Honorable House, the math is not mathing. Furthermore, it is crucial to recognize that one, no destination, country, region, or territory is immune to the threat of natural disasters. Two, that many renowned tourist destinations worldwide face similar or greater vulnerabilities. Number three, that when measured against the overall number of safe tourist days, the relative risk here is remarkably low. And finally, number four, other industries such as agriculture are more vulnerable. Now let that sink in. As a representative of the voice of our resilient Caribbean people, the opposition will not agree to putting up a closed for business sign out of fear of the risks and threats when we have proven our resilience, resourcefulness, and innovation. This House will boost your confidence, Madam Prime Minister, as we examine the evidence and reaffirm our strength. We propose, instead of painting your doom and gloom picture, that you join this winning team into thinking about a successful risk management plan. The 3 R's. 1, risks. Identify the risks. Number 2, relief. Put measures in place to mitigate against them. And number 3, recovery. Have a recovery plan. Our Shadow Minister of Tourism, Kiara McLean, will present to you 6 points demonstrating that mitigation is one of the best weapons that we have for alleviating risks against the devastating picture you have just painted with your mountain of pessimistic statistics. Later, our Shadow Minister of Planning and Infrastructure, Theo Silva, will present on efforts that are necessary for bouncing back from any disaster, natural or otherwise, that pose a threat to our pride and joy and our #1 tourism industry. Honorable Prime Minister, we understand that the Caribbean nations are prone to earthquakes and hurricanes, and we do not wish to trivialize the impacts of natural disasters. But do not let your fear be greater than your faith. Instead, we need to be set on business with the 3 R's approach involving identifying risks, implementing successful mitigation strategies, relief, and investing in a robust recovery effort system. These impacts of these risks, such as superstorms, no disrespect to Beryl, could eventually have the effects of a light Sunday afternoon drizzle. Thank you.
Thank you indeed. Both speakers are back and they're fiery. Congratulations to them. You would have just heard Ade Kushni, first speaker from Precious Treasures International School. We'll now move over to BVI for their second speaker, Naomi. Naomi's gonna have my name because I can hardly pronounce her last name, but Naomi, let's move over to BVI.
Good morning, everyone. Our Honorable Prime Minister began by outlining the risks superstorms towards tourists and businesses. Now I, Naomi Onofutu, Deputy Prime Minister of this venerable House, shall further build upon what was previously laid and address more of the inherent risks we face as a region. Before I begin, however, let us first inform the misinformed and address some of the inaccuracies presented by the opposition's first speaker. The opposition's first speaker has acted as if someone suggested to put the tourism industry on hold because of the risk of superstorms and earthquakes. Not once have we mentioned that. Just because there is a risk does not mean that we intend to shut down business. As small island developing states, we boast many characteristics that make us prime tourist destinations to many. However, because we are small, a rather large problem presents itself: a lack of resources. This makes it especially difficult for small island developing states to diversify their economies, and many end up reliant upon the whims and fancies of those seeking a getaway. According to Statista, a global data and business intelligence platform, there were still 5 countries within the region where tourism made up more than half of their GDP in 2022. Topping the chart was Antigua and Barbuda, where it made up an astounding 94%. Madam Speaker, we do not need to look too far to see what the consequences of such a system could be. In 2017, Irma, a Category 5 hurricane, completely ravaged Barbuda. And according to a report generated by the government of Antigua and Barbuda, this resulted not only in the total incapacitation of every major hotel on the island, but the loss of its entire 2017 to 2018 tourist season. This accounted for approximately 76% of the total losses to the country's productive sectors. Madam Speaker, with at least 15 countries in the region having more than 15% of their GDP encompassing tourism, this is a vulnerability that will only be exploited as powerful storms become the norm and not the exception. Risky business, indeed. This brings us to our next point: disaster capitalism. Simply put, this is when opportunistic governments use the shock of a disaster to override economic policies and clear the land for powerful interests to develop. Madam Speaker, this is not as uncommon as you may think. We saw this happen after wildfires scorched Maui in August of 2023, where investors swooped in like vultures to price the natives out of their land. And now a similar situation is happening on Barbuda. This year will mark 7 years after Irma's passage through the region, yet Barbuda is still struggling to recover. Despite the near complete reconstruction of other affected countries. In a 2022 progress report, the Global Legal Action Network detailed, not at this time, the systematic dismantling of Barbudans' rights to allow for the privatization of what was once communal land to be shared by all Barbudans. Now we have Barbudans being displaced from their land to erect multi-million-dollar resorts and a golf course that is being constructed on a wetland protected under the 1971 Ramsar Convention. This, Madam Speaker, is arguably the greatest risk to our region. Losing ourselves, our environment, and the authenticity of our tourism product to become just another playground for the top 1% to frolic in. Point of information will now be accepted.
Earlier in your speech, you had said that Antigua and Barbuda have not recovered this from the hurricane of Irma. What evidence do you have?
You can ask any Barbudans. We did thorough research, and they are still currently in destruction. They haven't fully rebuilt yet compared to the other islands. I will now continue. Madam Speaker, this motion is clearly about more than just safety, insurance, and inflation. As we continue to be battered by these storms and the economic burden mounts, opportunistic minds seeking financial gain can threaten our very identities, just like the colonizers of old. Let us take a page from our many brave brothers and sisters in Barbuda and dig in for the long fight ahead against these disasters, no matter the risk. The House yields the floor momentarily.
Thank you so very much. We will now move over to Precious Treasures International.
May I begin?
Yes, but can you turn up your audio? Precious Treasures, is there any way we can just have a quick audio check because we're getting messages in the chat that it's low. Harry, just say your name for me. Kiara, is that you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Can you speak directly into the microphone so that we can hear you? You may begin when you're ready. Go ahead.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of this honorable house. Let us approach with an open mind and a willingness to listen to reason and facts and not be intimidated by somber words like superstorm or earthquake. Wasn't it just last week we were anxious about Hurricane Beryl? And the week before that, the Southern Caribbean experienced an earthquake. These are not unusual occurrences. The Caribbean is no stranger to natural disasters and their effects on the tourism industry. We recognize the government's concern about the threats and risks of superstorms and earthquakes impacting our tourism industry. However, let us not overlook the many preventative measures and strategies Caribbean countries use to mitigate these effects. The Caribbean, as Sealy 2021 aptly illustrated, is intimately acquainted with natural disasters, such as hurricanes and earthquakes. Yet, amid these threats, tourism has not just persevered, it has flourished. How can we overlook the Caribbean's extensive history of confronting natural disasters, which has cultivated strong systems for disaster preparedness and response? Enhanced building codes, sophisticated early warning systems, and comprehensive emergency plans stand as testament to our proactive stance. Furthermore, tourism is a business, and so risks are part and parcel of the industry. Journal of Travel Research 2023, Volume 62, Tourism as a Business inherently involves risks, and these risks are integral to the industry. It is essential to recognize that severe storms and earthquakes alone cannot be pinpointed as the sole factor making the Caribbean tourism business riskier. Evidence suggests that a country's stability plays a crucial role in tourism efficiency, and we have the blueprint. Consider a study by Rafael Akamavi et al. 2023 in the Journal of Travel Research, which found that higher country stability leads to higher tourism efficiency. Policymakers should consider both cost and profit efficiency for sustainable growth. While terrorism and political instability hinder the tourism industry, stable countries have more efficient sectors. A holistic approach is needed to manage these risks effectively. Additionally, technological advancements have greatly improved our ability to predict superstorms and earthquakes, improving disaster preparedness and response strategies worldwide. We must recognize our very own regional agency, the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, or CDEMA, that has implemented early warning systems proven effective in reducing the impact of natural disasters. These systems improve preparedness and enable timely evacuation and response efforts, thereby safeguarding lives and minimizing economic disruption. Have you seen CDEMA's work during Hurricane Beryl? Madam Prime Minister, how can we dismiss the power of foresight and preparedness in safeguarding lives and livelihoods? Some aspects of tourism, like reefs and beaches, are naturally resistant to superstorms and earthquakes. The U.S. Forest Service notes that coral reefs resist hurricanes due to their structural strength, and white sandy beaches withstand storm surges. Protecting these natural features can enhance tourism resilience and promote environmental conservation. Now listen to this. The tourism industry's vulnerability to superstorms and earthquakes varies by country, depending on resources and not at this time. For example, according to TheGuardian.com, a 7.0 A 7.0 magnitude earthquake in Haiti in 2010 killed close to 316,000 people, while a 7.4 magnitude earthquake in Martinique resulted in just 1 death and around 100 injuries. This shows that countries with strong infrastructure, early warning systems, and disaster response plans can better protect tourism assets and minimize disruptions, ensuring visitor safety and continued tourism activities even during natural disasters. Modern construction techniques have improved infrastructure resilience, allowing them to better withstand natural disasters. SEDIMA emphasizes the need for resilient infrastructure. For instance, during Hurricane Irma, the reinforced 7 Stars Hotel in the TCI served as a shelter and swiftly resumed tourist accommodations once the all clear was given. This example shows how modern construction ensures safety and supports the rapid recovery of the tourism
Point of
industry.
information.
Not at this time. In conclusion, while natural disasters are a reality in the Caribbean, the region's resilience through better building codes, early warning systems, and modern construction ensure safety and recovery, stability, and preparedness for a thriving tourism industry. Thank you.
Thank you so very, very much. Let's move over to BVI. And just a reminder to those joining us online who would not have heard the motion, it reads, this House believes increasingly devastating superstorms and earthquakes makes our #1 tourism industry risky business for the Caribbean. We have proposing the motion Emma Stout from the British Virgin Islands and opposing the motion Precious Treasures International School from Turks and Caicos. We will now invite our third speaker from BVI.
Good morning, everyone. I am Adrienne Thomas, third member of this honorable House. Madam Speaker, we stand resolute in full proposition of the motion that increasingly devastating superstorms and earthquakes make our #1 tourism industry risky business for the Caribbean. Because we are unwavering in this position, it would be irresponsible of us not to discuss the impacts earthquakes have had on the region. The reason for their omission thus far was one of practicality. Both natural disasters are equally destructive towards infrastructure, so their impacts on industry are not dissimilar. However, superstorms are not only more common in their occurrence, but are scientifically predicted to worsen as our climate shifts. There's known predictability that adds another level of fear and uncertainty into travelers and locals alike, not like the unknown, like an earthquake. Nonetheless, let us discuss one of the most impactful events to shake the region this century, the 2010 Haiti earthquake. With its epicenter a mere 10 miles from the capital Port-au-Prince, the 7.0 magnitude earthquake was associated with catastrophic loss of life and property, causing an estimated 7 to 14 billion US dollars in damage. It should come as no surprise then that the losses incurred to its tourism sector were similarly significant. Firstly, the country's ports were damaged, which not only hampered the aid response, but reduced the number of tourists able to enter the country. Furthermore, even if the country was able to welcome tourists, it was clear that the massive damage to infrastructure could not accommodate them in similar volumes 2 years prior, as some 30,000 businesses were destroyed. These figures were substantiated by the government of the Republic of Haiti, who further stated that retail and tourism suffered a 26% and a 25% contraction in growth, respectively. This culminated in a 34% reduction in tourists that year, and that figure remained diminished until 2014. To make matters worse, while recovering, they were battered by Hurricane Matthew in 2016, a Category 5 storm that caused further widespread damage. Haiti's experience exemplifies the risk that comes with being situated in a disaster hotspot. It also demonstrates that not every country will be well equipped to be able to mitigate these risks without support. This cautionary tale should be a call to action to renew our efforts to regional cooperation so that the incoming rising tide will lift us all and leave none behind. The House pauses momentarily.
Well-researched and excellent presentations by both schools. We will now move over to Turks and Caicos Precious Treasures International School for their third speaker, Theo Silva. Mr. Silva, you may begin.
Picture these headlines. St. Lucia open for business. Sandals, St. Vincent, and Grenada resorts remain open. These pronouncements were made in the Carib Journal only 2 days after the passing of Hurricane Beryl. Good afternoon, opponents, judges, and well-wishers. As recent evidence has shown, recovery efforts have significantly contributed to the longevity and continued growth of the tourism sector. As a matter of fact, the Caribbean has bounced back from natural disasters. According to the World Bank, as a matter of fact, the Caribbean has bounced back from natural disasters. The World Bank has noted that many destinations have seen an increase in tourist arrivals despite the region's inherent risks and threats. As superstorms Irma and Maria hit the Turks and Caicos in 2017, there was an increase of over 200,000 visitors to the islands the very next year. To reiterate the point, between 2016 and 17, the number of visitors to the island was 1.2 million. But right after, in 2018, the number jumped up by over 200,000. Furthermore, the Caribbean Tourism Organization reports that in 2019 alone, over 31 million tourists chose the Caribbean as their destination. This is not merely resilience. This is an unshakable spirit of a region that refuses to be defined by disasters. Listen to this. Did you know disasters in one country can have a positive impact on the other right here in our Caribbean region? Well, according to the World Bank and Global Facility for Disaster Reduction and Recovery, tourists are typically redirected to neighboring countries when a Caribbean country experiences a crisis. For example, large cruise ships and travel agencies opt to send their clients to other Caribbean countries. Now, let's talk numbers, shall we? Businesses in countries surveyed by the World Bank saw an increase in demand due to natural shocks or disasters in neighboring nations. St. Kitts and Nevis with 70% and Antigua and Barbuda with 64% saw the most significant benefits. Hurricane Irma was the leading cause of this. In fact, some countries have also experienced a positive demand effect from disasters affecting them directly. Now, this is certainly a more positive outlook than the doom presented by the government, don't you think? And finally, just so you know, Prime Minister and members of government, in 2018 to 19, shortly after those devastating hurricanes, the BVI, your neck of the woods, experienced a 63% increase in tourist arrivals. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Both schools will now prepare their rebuttals. And we just want our friends, teachers, coaches joining us online. Just a reminder who our adjudicators are this morning: our Chief Judge, Mrs. Bertha Cooper Rousseau, Mr. Dennis Chung, and Miss Judy Jetterville. Mrs. Bertha Cooper Rousseau is an attorney at law from the Bahamas. Mr. Dennis Chung is chairman of the ODPM, that's here in Jamaica. And Miss Judy Jetterville is manager public relations head at Sandals St. Lucia. So we have a very balanced panel, and we will allow the students about 5 minutes to prepare their deliberation. Congratulations to both coaches, Ms. Horn, Ms. Weeks, well researched. All the coaches, as a matter of fact, at Precious Treasures International and Elmore Stout High. Good job. Thank you. 2 more minutes. And when we return, we will be in our rebuttals section. We just want to take this moment to thank our sponsors, Sandals International. Boy, I'm so envious of that weekend, right? Sandals destination to any Sandals destination here in the Caribbean. Congratulations. And guess what? Both coaches received that. Both coaches will receive that weekend prize. And that goes to show that Sandals is really looking out for our coaches, right? So congrats to you. You can just go on the map and choose which Sandals resort you'd like to stay at. Camco Manufacturing and Hotel Supplies for the gifts for the students, trophies, prizes. The students will not be left out. We're hoping next year when we meet face to face that you will all be there and you'll be continue to be ambassadors of the program. We want to thank our judges as well, and we are going to give another minute for the students to wrap up. We will begin with the proposing team, which is Turks and Caicos. Let me go over to my documents. Ade Kushne, are you the person that's going to be presenting the rebuttals? They're all set and ready?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, here we go. We'd like to thank the audience that's there. We see you. I don't know who is in the audience there, Turks and Caicos, thank you. And also our audience online, Natalie Penlake, thank you so much for making this possible. We'll meet again in Turks and Caicos. So Ms. Kushni, please go ahead with your rebuttals for the judges.
How many countries have never bounced back as a result of these threats and risks? Give us a number, please. The Prime Minister and her colleagues are resolute in the arguments that we lack resources. These disasters threaten our identity. And they also argue that the earthquake left Haiti devastated, but they clearly didn't listen to the evidence presented by our second speaker, Kiara McLean. Amidst the 44 hurricanes since 1984, as cited by Statista.com, and the 53 quakes of magnitudes up to 7.9 since the 1900s, according to Volcano Discovery, none of them rendered our tourism industry permanently disabled. From the perspective of the Jamaican tourism sector, recovery has been aided by the resilient architecture with elements such as enforcement and monitoring of standards and protocols, and strong political leadership, among other things. The government has also argued quite passionately that a risk is a risk and a threat is a threat, despite how small we perceive them to be. But passion does not represent facts. Let me see the hands of those who like to eat out. Can you see what goes on in the kitchen? The Wright brothers took a giant risk, and here we are today, propelling ourselves through the air at 600 miles per hour on 3, 6, or even 12-hour flights without a second thought. Every decision has an associated risk, congregation. For some islands, sectors accounts for the colossal 2/3 of gross domestic product, according to Gemma Handy of BBC 2020. Should the tourism industry roll over and die because of a potential or a possibility? Finally, the government has suggested that insurance is too costly, the most profound impact. To that, we boldly say it will cost us more to abandon our #1 income earner. Instead, let's meet these financial challenges by mobilizing our efforts as one Caribbean. In her article titled 3 Keys for Supporting Caribbean Tourism After Natural Disasters, we agree with Andrea Ortega that experts anticipate that climate change will continue to strike the Caribbean. For this reason, the only thing to do is to be prepared with resilient and sustainable buildings and tools to support the resurgence of tourism in the region. Listen, we're already off to a good start, but we must vamp up risk management plans for our robust and resilient #1 tourism industry in the Caribbean. Madam Prime Minister, fellow ministers of government, We close with words of wisdom from Gina Davis. If you risk nothing, you risk everything. The opposition rests.
Thank you so very much, Ms. Kushney. She is the opposition leader. We will now move over to the British Virgin Islands very quickly, a very quick move over to BVI. We don't have to stay at the airport for our rebuttals section. Naomi?
Madam Speaker, with all the extra time the opposition has had to prepare for this motion, it is unbelievable that all they have to show for it are 3 speeches filled with irrelevant and unsubstantiated claims. Now the time has come to dissect those flimsy notions with the accuracy and precision that only can be witnessed on an operating table. Firstly, let me remind you of the motion at hand. Increasingly devastating superstorms and earthquakes make our #1 tourism industry risky business for the Caribbean. The opposition has stated many times that superstorms and earthquakes are indeed risks. Why are they proving our own point? That makes my work a lot easier. The opposition has also tried to distract us by talking about other risks to tourism, such as terrorism. Now, we wouldn't dare say that terrorism is not a risk to the tourism industry, but so are superstorms and earthquakes. The opposition's second speaker has stated that the region is no stranger to storms and natural disasters, that it hasn't changed our tourism product before, so why would it change it in the future? Let me see. Earthquakes and superstorms especially will accompany a changing climate that will severely impact our tourism product. Ocean warming and acidification will devastate reefs, and changing weather patterns can cause biodiversity loss. The opposition has stated that our region has reefs and resources that are resistant to storms. What about superstorms? Superstorms especially will accompany a changing climate that will severely impact our natural resources. Let me remind you of what I stated in my speech, that because we are small, a large problem presents itself, a lack of resources. We are unable to build ourselves to that point. Are we expected to knock down our current infrastructure to build up this fancy modern infrastructure that can withstand superstorms and earthquakes? The opposition's first speaker stated that with each disaster comes resilience, that we will build back stronger and more prepared to weather the next storms. Madam Speaker, the problem with this is that the disaster must come first in order for this change to occur. The average person does not have the finances to renovate their property proactively for resiliency, especially in this region where the poverty rate hovers around 30%. The second speaker spoke about technological advancements in hurricane and earthquake prediction. But even though we have the technology for early predictions of superstorms, the Caribbean does not have the resources to prepare adequately, so the information becomes futile. Once again, resources, we do not have the money, we do not have the resources. In the case of Hurricane Beryl, St. Vincent and the Grenadines had prior notice, yet even with all of their preparation, many islands in the Grenadines were catastrophically demolished by this superstorm. Madam Speaker, the opposition's second speaker stated that Haiti is the only place in the Caribbean that had a significant earthquake all the way back in 2010. But do all of us have this fancy infrastructure that can withstand the earthquake like the other country that they mentioned can? This is 14 years ago since Haiti experienced their earthquake, and they are still feeling the effects of this disaster. It can happen to any of us. It happened before, and it can happen again. The opposition's third speaker stated disaster tourism can present new attractions for tourists and operators, bringing much needed revenue into the country after a storm has passed. While the idea of these disaster zones sounds like an experience, this in no way can make up for the revenue the country would generate when fully recovered. Lastly, the opposition's third speaker stated that there was a 60% in the increase in the tourism industry in my very own British Virgin Islands after the Hurricane Irma and the recovery in 2018 to 2019. Well, I have lived in the British Virgin Islands since the hurricane, so I can say for a fact that that information is correct and that we are only now getting back to where we were before the hurricane. Madam Speaker, throughout the course of this debate, our opponents have tried to mislead and malign the argument. Worse yet, trying to pretend as if we are not in the midst of climate change, the effects of which we are currently facing as Hurricane Beryl became the earliest Category 5 hurricane on record. Identifying and acknowledging the risks is now crucial for developing a robust and sustainable tourism product that will survive long after the storm passes. The proposition rests.
Let's have a round of applause, please. May we have a round of applause for both schools, Emory Stout High. They have entered the competition for the very first time, and we're very, very pleased with their presentation. Turks and Caicos, Precious Treasures International, now TCI, has been our champions as runner-up champions last year. And we're also pleased by the support that is given from Turks and Caicos. As you can see, they have a room, an audience there for their students. So thank you so much to both coaches for what you've done. We will now take a break. Our judges now need to tally the scores and deliberate and come back and give us some points and announce who the champions will be. In my eyes, they're all winners, but there can only be one, right? So we'll be right back. In the meantime, let's get to meet our friends online, Natalie, Basil, Brian, everybody that's there online with us this morning. So we'll be back. Morning here, afternoon in TCI and BVI, right? We'll be right back. Shari, can you create the breakout room?
One moment, Mr.
Because if you give it back to me, I can.
Sure.
It's not coming up.
Mr. Luck? Are you there, Mr. Luck?
Yes, Shari. Are you hearing me?
Yes, I'm hearing you. For the breakout rooms, I just put the students
No,
separately and
just the
the
judges.
and the
Just the
judges.
judges. And
All right.
myself here.
All right, no problem.
Okay. Well, all the students have left us. It's like freedom. It's in the breakout room. Judges, the breakout room is open. You can just rejoin the one we had this morning. Myself, Dennis Chung, Shari, yes, we're all here. Okay, thank you. So let me bother the coaches. Everybody's eating. Nobody has sent any food for me over here. Brian didn't send any food. Mr. Garland didn't send any food. Nobody invited me to Turks and Caicos. When I come to Turks and Caicos, I have so much fun at your fish fry. Okay. Let me see. Is Miss Horn there? Miss Horn? I didn't get to meet Miss Horn. And then I'm gonna go over to BVI and meet Miss Weeks. Is that Miss Horn? Coach, where are you? I've seen you coming forward. Yes, let me get a nice little screenshot of Miss Horn and Miss Oh, wait, Miss Horn. Yes, wait, let me take a picture. Wow, nice to meet you, Miss Horn. I know you can't hear me, but if your principal is there, please extend well wishes to her and to the team. All right, so everybody is there? All right, nice to meet you. We've been all speaking in the WhatsApp. I didn't get to meet everybody. All right, so there's Hi, everyone. Hi. Oh, I know when we get off air, I'll know who that is. Okay. Is that Mr. Hutchinson? I don't know who that is, but okay, nice to meet you. How can I get over to BVI? How can I get over to BVI? I don't know how to get over to BVI because everybody is gone. Shari, we can get over to BVI.
Sure, let me go over and see what's happening.
This is the quickest flight time we've ever had. We just hop right over in a few minutes. We're in BVI, we're in Turks. Soon technology will offer that.
Yes,
But I'm hearing no, but I'm trying to find BVI. Can't find my BVI. Oh,
Sure.
there they are.
We
I'm
add
seeing
me
them.
as host. Okay.
I'm seeing BVI. Oh, I need to be the one to pin them. It's not gonna work. Oh, there they are.
everyone.
Say it again.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, BVI. Who is that?
This is Miss Weeks.
Miss Weeks. Finally. How are you? How is Natalie? Is Natalie there?
Yeah, she's right here with me.
Is that the one in the red? Yes, yes. I knew it was you. I knew it was you. Hi, Natalie. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Same spirit. Good to see you. Yeah, I can tell you. When I met Natalie in Turks and Caicos, it's her spirit that drew me to her. Very nice. Thank you both for doing such an excellent job. Thank you. Have you all decided which standards you're going to go to? Let me
Not
know.
yet.
Send me photos. Do you know the coaches never send us photos? I have to wonder what's going on, but what happens at Sandals, stay at Sandals. Okay, nice meeting you all and congratulations, okay?
Thank you.
Take care. All right, we will be ready in about another minute and a half. So we're gonna ask students to get back into your position in another minute and a half. That time is almost there. The announcement is there. I just spoke to the judges. They seem as nervous as you are. All. All right. Hi, Shari, you're back as host.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so as soon as we get on, can you just tell me if Dennis and if all the judges are in the room?
All right, let me take a look.
Right, they're all here. They're all here.
Yes, I'm seeing them all as well.
All right, welcome back, guys. We have run over a little bit, but we're gonna get right into it. So this is a very difficult task, and we want to thank our judges, Miss Judy Ditterville, Mrs. Bertha Cooper-Russell, and Mr. Dennis Strong. We're gonna start with Mr. Dennis Strong of the ODPM here in Jamaica. And as you know, he is the chairman for the ODPM. And I think his feedback is very critical to what we're gonna be hearing about this very timely motion on climate change, hurricanes, and earthquakes. Dennis, over to you. Let's spotlight Dennis. Shari. Oh, I see you.
Oh, right. I was
Yeah.
on mute. Yeah. Hi everyone. Thanks a lot. Let me first congratulate the students. I think you did an excellent job in terms of the delivery of the points that you made. I am speaking first because I'm going to have to run to do another presentation. But I speak not just as the chairman of ODPEM, but also someone who comments a lot on these matters, these economic matters. And I also deal with a lot of these issues that you've been speaking about. I think that the points made on both sides were very well made. I think that one of the deficiencies is that it was not brought to a conclusion on both sides. So you did speak about the risks, and you did speak about why on the other side, why the risk alone cannot be a determinant of going forward. And there were some very salient points, I think, that was well delivered. When you spoke about risk management, when you spoke about the impact of the events, which is coming from climate change primarily, which I didn't hear enough about that on the industry, because there is no doubt, and this is something that we've been discussing here in Jamaica. There is no doubt that the intensity of the hurricanes will actually impact in a negative way the tourism industry, which is the greatest competitive advantage area that we have in the Caribbean. But it was also mentioned on the other side, glancingly, but very importantly, that we are not the only ones who face it. So the question is, does it erode our competitive advantage? And the answer to that might be no. But what we did not do enough is bring around those arguments to the impact on business at the micro level. So we spoke a lot at the macro level, but the micro level impact is really the important thing. However, I think that the arguments were well made. I thought that within the time that was given, that the participants did deliver the salient arguments that were to be made. And therefore, I think that it was very close, as you see, with the scores as finally announced, it was very close. But I just want to congratulate everyone on the work that was done. And thank you for providing me with this opportunity. And certainly, what it says to me, which is important, is that there is awareness throughout the industry, throughout the Caribbean on this, because one of the things that we have discussed at ODPEM is that it is not just about disaster management in terms of response, but preparedness in terms of resilience, which you did bring out well. And that is where the emphasis needs to be going forward for all of us if we're to protect the industry. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chong. I know I picked a very good judge there. And thank you for being here. And I hope we didn't keep it too long. Safe travel to your next appointment.
All right,
Will we take this?
everyone.
No problem, Dennis. Thank you. Are we going with Mrs. Cooper, or is Judy gonna give us any feedback? Judy, are you gonna give us feedback? Or Mrs. Cooper or so?
Really just to congratulate all the speakers. They've presented themselves and their schools very, very well. Very articulate young people. It's always a pleasure to listen to people who can express themselves very well. And they've all done that exceedingly well. And so just having said that, I'll hand over now to Mrs. Cooper Russo. All
right, drum roll, Mrs. Bertha Cooper Russo, attorney at law here in the Bahamas.
Thank you.
You have the task. Go ahead, Mrs. Bertha Cooper Russo, please, we wait.
Thank you very much. I must say that today's task was extraordinarily difficult. And I would like to congratulate each and every one of you, including your coaches and including your parents and your extended families who have supported you in getting thus far. You are indeed an example, all of you, to others throughout the Caribbean and throughout other small islands through in the Pacific and other areas around the globe. And as the director, Ms. Tulloch, has said, that each and every one of you will leave today as ambassadors to carry the message. With that being said, I would like to start with the highest point. As I've said, it has been a very difficult task for all of us. And the highest point, having a maximum of 1,000, we've come to 941. And the second in behind is 934. So you can see with those results, we've had a difficult task, and there was, to be commended on both sides. With 941, we have the team from BVI, and that is St. Elmo Stott School. And I would like to congratulate you. And coming very, very closely behind with 934 points is Precious Treasures International School in the Turks and Caicos Islands. And so congratulations to all of you. And we were also tasked with selecting the overall best speaker. Again, each and every one of you have done extraordinarily well. And we had a very task, as you can see, we took longer than usual. But we've come very, very close and given it to Naomi Onwufuju from the BVI. And we would like to congratulate her on her accomplishment. As far as my feedback, overall, I was just given the opportunity to look at your overall presentations, and I have nothing more to say, but congratulations to each and every one of you. With that being said.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mrs. Bertha Cooper. So this is a reason why I'm never a judge. I get too emotional and I leave it to strong females and males like you and Mr. Chung and Miss Judy Detterville to give the scores. Can you imagine if I had to do it for every competition? I'd be in pieces. Congratulations, Elmore Stout School, and congratulations again, TCI, second runner-up. You both are champions, first and second place. We want to thank Sandals International, our judges. You would have heard for this timely motion on climate change. We want to thank our timekeeper, Shari Dawson, all the coaches that we met earlier, Ms. Horn, Ms. Weeks, the principals for both schools, the Ministry of Tourism in the Turks and Caicos, BVI, Tourist Board, and there's a long list, Mr. Garland from the Ministry of Education. I know yesterday when I was watching the speakers from TCI, there's a long list of schools and support that's given to TCI. Congrats to you. Natalie, I see you. I see you in the chat. Congratulations on a well done job. Thank you, judges. It has been a pleasure. I'm your moderator, Michelle Tuller. See you next time.
Congratulations, TCI. On behalf of the whole Elmore Stout High School team, it was an honor to debate against you. So congratulations. You guys did awesome.
Well, usually we shake hands. We can't shake hands, so maybe some virtual waves. We will all meet each other hopefully next year. Some of you will be going off to college and work, and I would have loved to have met you guys, but I'm sure our paths will cross at some point. Thank you, Mr. Bean, Brian Bean, the backbone, my backbone, the competition backbone, the Minister of Tourism. Our condolences to you. I understand that you lost your son. We would like to send our condolences to you. All right. Thank you so much and all the best.
Sorry, to the Elmore High School, I just want to say congratulations to winning. You guys did a great job and it was an honor to
Who is
debate
that
against you guys.
speaking? Isn't that Miss Kitchery?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I know that voice. Thank you so much. You are all stars. Theo, thank you. Carol, thank you. Naomi, Adrian, who am I forgetting? I'm getting old. Thank you so much. All right. I know it's not bye-bye. It's see you later, because you're no ambassadors and I'll be calling you to tell you have to do this TV interview and this radio interview. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.